Anxiety Part 2, Fight, Flight or Freeze. This is the fear response or the stress response or fight or flight, whatever you want to call it. I call it fight, flight or freeze just from my own therapy that I've had and from my own experience of dealing with this, because I don't always go to fight or flight. I can sometimes just freeze up on the spot. The reason I'm talking about this is because when we want to learn about anxiety, we need to learn how this part of our brain, this system works, because this is what creates our anxiety. This is what creates stress, and prolonged experience at this state can help you to develop generalized anxiety disorder, severe stress, and it can have physical effects on the body as well, such as IBS, weight gain, weight loss, etc., etc., problems with your heart, loads and loads of things. So we need to understand this when we're talking about anxiety. And what I've done today is taken some information from an article called How Fear Works by Julia Layton, taken from a website called science.howstuffworks.com. All the information is in the description below, but I wanted to quote Julia because this is a really great article that has helped me structure my video today. And without further ado, let's start talking about it. So what is fear? Fear is a chain reaction in the brain that starts with a stressful stimulus and ends with the release of chemicals that cause a racing heart. You know, we've had maybe a panic attack, fast breathing, you know, I don't know why I'm having to act that out for you, but you know what that means. Energized muscles, ready to go, and there's other things, and this is known as fight, flight or freeze, or fight or flight. So it could be anything that's made you scared, but this is what this is. So it could be anything. You could have a phobia, it could be a deadline, it could be an exam, but something has triggered this off, creating you to feel anxious and stressed and maybe very fearful. The fear response is almost entirely autonomic. This means not automatic, autonomic. So this means we do not consciously trigger it, and we don't even know that it's going on until it's run its course. So when people say, oh, don't worry about that and don't get stressed about that, you can't help it. This part of the brain, especially if it keeps going, doing this process over and over again, you can develop, you know, anxiety. Oops, that fell over. And not again. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the brain now, and there are 5 main areas involved in the brain. There's lots of areas involved in the brain. The brain is very, very complex, but I want to tell you the main areas involved. I'm not going to go too much into detail about this because I have talked about this a bit in Anxiety Part 1. So here's my picture of my brain. Well, it's not my brain, it's the picture that was in the document that I've used. Wait for it to focus, which is not. Oh, come on. So, there we go. So up here is the sensory cortex, then the thalamus, the hypothalamus, the amygdala, and then the hippocampus. Okay, I'm going to say what they are. So the thalamus decides where to send incoming sensory data. So from sensory data from the eyes, ears, mouth, and skin. The nose is different, and I'll talk about that another time. Sensory cortex, which is actually the first one on the list, this interprets that sensory data. The hippocampus, what does this do? It stores and retrieves conscious memories and processes sets of stimuli, so different stimuli, to establish the context of what's going on. The amygdala decodes emotions, determines possible threat, and stores fear memories. Very powerful thing considering how small it is. And the hypothalamus activates fight, flight, or freeze. So this process begins with a scary stimulus, so it could be a spider, it could be it could be banging downstairs, maybe late at night when you're on your own, and you can hear a door banging. Could that be a burglar, or is it the wind? So there's the stimulus. The stimulus is what has triggered your fear response. Now, to create fear, it goes down to the 2 pathways. Sorry, there are 2 pathways involved in fear. There's the low road. This is quick and messy. And the high road takes more time to interpret things. So you can go, so the low road would be like fear, whoosh, straight to fight or flight. Or high road, fear, actually this could be happening, maybe it's that, actually maybe I don't need to activate fight or flight. So I don't want to go into too much detail about the low road and the high road, but yeah, so the low road will simply go, that's the fear, oh my god. The amygdala will say, yes, that's very scary, and will say, hypothalamus, turn on the fight, flight or freeze. The high road, like I say, considers all the options. Is it a burglar banging or is it the wind? So in the high road, for example, your sensory cortex may say, oh, I can hear that, I can hear a bit of wind, I can also see outside the window that there's wind. So maybe by hearing the wind, seeing the wind, I can pretty much gather that the banging downstairs is more likely to be the wind, and therefore the hypothalamus doesn't want to do the fight or flight. So I've said that twice, but I just wanted to get that very, very clear. But whatever happens, whichever road, high or low road, all roads end up to the hypothalamus, unless your amygdala says actually you don't need to be scared of that, and then it won't go there. But so all roads lead to the hypothalamus and develop that fight or flight or freeze. So once that's happened, the hypothalamus activates two systems, the sympathetic nervous system and the adrenal cortical system. The sympathetic nervous system tells the body to kick into gear, and it speeds up the body, tenses up, getting us very alert, ready to fight. When we do it in the when the hypothalamus stimulates the adrenal cortical system, this then stimulates glands to then say you need adrenaline, you need cortisol, you need these hormones in order to cope with the fear. So what happens? This is when we start to see the physical effects of anxiety on the body. So your heart rate and your blood pressure goes up. Your pupils dilate to let as much light in as possible. And why do we need that? Because we need to see what's going on. We need to see what threat is around. The veins in the skin constrict to send more blood to major muscle groups. So this makes us go cold because our muscles on the surface aren't working. They need to go into other ones to supply blood to the major muscle groups. The blood glucose levels increases. Muscle tenses up, energized by adrenaline and glucose. This is when we get our goosebumps on the skin. So if you're experiencing the fear, you may freeze, you may chill, and you may get goosebumps, and you may be frozen with fear, which is why I like to use the word freeze. What else happens? Our smooth muscles relax in order to allow more oxygen into the lungs. So because if we're going panicking or something like that, then we need more oxygen to help us breathe, to help us to be able to fight. And then really, really importantly here, non-essential systems of the body shut down. This is your digestive system and your immune system. So if you have a prolonged experience at this state, then your digestive system will start to experience issues. You may develop IBS for one. And your immune system, if you're constantly shutting this system down, you could start to develop problems with your immune system. Physical effects again. And then you will also probably have trouble focusing on small tasks because the brain isn't thinking about, oh, I need to focus on my school exam. My brain isn't thinking about the detail. It's thinking, oh my God, I've got to deal with this fear, this fight, flight, or freeze. I've got to face up to it. So it's a really, 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 really stressful place to be in, and that hopefully has given you the sort of process that we go through, the fight or flight. Now when I'm saying fight, I don't mean you're going to go and punch someone. Some people may have that automatic reaction to go and fight. What it means is your body is ready to fight. It's ready to take on the threat. Flight means that you may run away. I'm either a flight well, it depends on the situation. When I've got road rage, I'm probably going into fight. When there's a drama going on, when there's crossed words, when there is, arguments, something like that that's making me stressed, I'll probably flight and run away. When I'm genuinely, absolutely terrified and I have no solution, no way of working out what's going on, I go into freeze. So everyone is different and will go into different states. I just want to end here and say, why do we need all of this? Why do we need this stress system, this stress response, this fight, flight or freeze? Well, if we weren't afraid of anything, we'd just be walking around like driving our cars like this and running into the road, and people would just be going crazy. And so if we didn't have this, we wouldn't survive for long. We wouldn't be alive. And luckily, I'm going to end here. Most of us now, you know, we're no longer fighting or running for our lives in the world. You know, this fear response comes from, you know, our instincts when we were developing as human beings. It's our survival instinct, but it's outdated. The problem is now we have other stresses in our lives, like exams, you know, coursework, work, deadlines, bosses, you know, micromanagement, management, all these things that are causing us to be stressed people. And like I say, prolonged experience at that level can make you physically and mentally very, very poorly. So we need to learn how to manage that. And what can happen, you know, with all of this is people can have panic attacks. And that is where I'm going to talk about in Anxiety Part 3. Explain what they are and how to deal with them, because they are seriously, seriously scary. And it's all brought on by this fear response. Hope that's been interesting. Hope that's been useful. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. Please comment as well. Please have any questions. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, guys. Take care now.